between you and Phil with putative deems.
Governor Nixon, the veto Senate Bill 749, you're citing the ability of insurance companies to say that in this policy we will not provide these particular coverages. What's to keep the person purchasing that policy from choosing another insurance company that does provide those coverages? Why should the same rights that you support for employers and employees be provided to the insurance companies to say, we're not going to provide this, but you're free to go to the market and find somebody who will?
Insurance companies are under a different position in this situation. Clearly, with your employer and whatnot, you find yourself assigned, in essence, under the policies to insurance companies and whatnot. Plus, this is a significant differential and step forward, a differential step that I just don't think we should do. I don't think you should put insurance companies in a situation that they have in our laws the right to make those decisions. We don't, as I said before, if you start doing that, you move yourself forward into areas that are controversial and improper. So I think that step here, that positioning of an insurance company before the individuals or the employers is not the right positioning on healthcare choices.
Governor, did you have any concern that this bill, if enacted into Missouri law, would have conflicted with the new federal policy requiring insurance companies to provide coverage at no cost to women who want to receive it?
Yeah, I mean, my focus was on what this Missouri law would do in Missouri, and while I'm not unaware of some of those issues that might develop, the uncertainty on all of that sort of stuff that's out there had my focus on this one, David, be on what does this Missouri law do, how would it change the construct we've had in this state for many, many years. And I felt that construct was a step backwards because it positioned insurance companies differently. And while I'm not unaware of some of the other discussions nationally, my focus on the decision here was what about Missouri law.
I get that, but do you think it would have conflicted with the federal policy?
I'm not sure, and I'm not confident what that ultimate federal policy will be. I mean, you're still at a very early stage of a number of some of the actions there. So this is certainty. I'm vetoing it. I'm saying Missouri. This is an individual and employer's choice. We have strong religious exceptions that are working now, and that from Missouri's position, this is the place I believe that we should be positioned. And whatever the federal government does, they do. But given the position I have, my job is to define what Missouri law is.
On this topic of health care, the Supreme Court ruling has also said that Missouri, if it chooses now, does not have to carry out the Medicaid expansion that was in the federal health care law. And I know when you campaigned on expanding Medicaid, restoring the cuts that were made in Missouri. Do you still support an expansion of Medicaid?
And we have work to make sure especially more children are covered.
Right.
Folks, and to do things to take down barriers to make sure more things are covered. I think that on the Medicaid piece of the ACA, I mean, what we want is the best fit for Missouri. And any change in our Medicaid laws is clearly going to require legislation. So I'm going to work with the legislature and everyone around the table to find a best fit for our state. I mean, this is you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of lives. You're dealing with billions of dollars, and I certainly appreciate people having the ability to make quick reactions and quick statements and whatnot. But these are some certainly not saying I support everything that's in a bill or that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is that in order to get movement forward, it's going to require stakeholders, legislators, and others to come together. And so I'm trying to listen and to work with folks for what's best for the healthcare in Missouri and best for the financial health of our state, and protect the sovereignty of the state of Missouri and our particular powers that we have in these areas. And there are a myriad of issues involved in that. And it is not and so we are beginning a process to define on a number of these issues what's the best fit for our state. And I will work with, as I said before, the legislature, other stakeholders, hospitals, others, to make sure that we craft the best fit for the state.
Governor, does that mean during the campaign you're not going to say whether you do favor or don't favor this if it's an all or nothing expansion? You've said in your Boys State address, you said those coverage decisions were best made at the state level. This would expand it to working age, childless adults, which has not been the subject of your expansion. What is your position on whether it should be expanded, regardless of whether you could get that through the legislature? What is
we're going to work with folks to analyze all of this. I mean, clearly there's huge numbers of uncertainties out there. There are countless rules and regulations at the federal level. There are any number of corners here, but I've stated, that. And we'll continue to work to what's best for the best health of the folks of our state, to access and use taxpayer dollars efficiently and effectively, and certainly we'll work to keep the sovereignty of the state. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's really easy to just say yes and no and to say and to start this this kind of banter back and forth that Washington has become so famous for, and quite frankly, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work with folks, and whatever gets done is going to require all of us coming together and getting that done next year anyway. I mean, certainly, if I didn't want to work on it, if I didn't want to try to make the healthcare system of our state better, if I didn't want to make sure the Missouri taxpayers dollars were spent, effectively, if I didn't want to make sure that we kept our sovereignty and kept control where we could in the state, I could simply say yes or no and walk away from this. But people didn't elect me governor to do that. They elected me governor to try to take the tools, and these are new tools which are haven't been well defined yet, and there are hundreds of issues here. But we'll work to get the best fit for our state. We'll work to use taxpayer resources effectively, and I'll work to make sure we keep state sovereignty.
Let me approach your question, approach it in a somewhat different way. At this point, do you think the state can afford $100 million a year that ultimately would cost?
Without getting into detail on something there haven't even been rules and regulations started with yet, I think everybody is aware of the lack of match necessary on the front end of many of these programs, and the resources available, the tax resources Missourians pay that would be available out there. We got enough challenges in dealing with the complexities of this over the next year that what happens ultimately 8 or 9 or 7, 8, 9 years out there is not the focal point of the initial thoughts, and I figure for me. So that while I understand that sometime later if something happens, something else could happen, that's over half a decade away. We got lots of action between here and there.
Governor, on the bill regarding the use tax on motor vehicles, the money that is involved here is very significant, and the majority of Missouri citizens live on the border counties.
Like Dunklin County, which just passed the use tax.
Right.
Based on the Supreme Court decision, which just saw that decision, saw it with the unanimous decision, saw that it said that for use tax for those types of purchases, that they needed voter approval. So they sought that voter approval, and by an almost 2-to-1 margin, they voted for it. What we're saying to other jurisdictions, and 90 cities and 40 counties have already done that. So I interrupted your question anyway. It was my turn to do that. You've done it to me, so I thought I would.
How difficult was it for you thinking about all those auto dealers who are going to watch sales drive 40 miles so somebody can save perhaps as much as $2,000 in taxes in order to and those auto dealers losing sales in major metropolitan areas, driving them out of the state? How difficult was the choice between that and the decision you made?
The principle without raising taxes out of other people, to me, exceeds the other, and consequently, while there are, without getting into excruciating detail, there are ways to do this, but including the voters is necessary for that. So, you know, while I'm certainly sensitive to that, you know, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously, and the best reaction to that unanimous decision is to follow a path that gives the voters a choice. And quite frankly, I think there's you know, without going into, like I said, excruciating detail, I mean, there's a strong case to be made in those local jurisdictions about that, and that's where it should be made. And if people feel strongly about it in those areas, like they did in Dunklin County, which obviously has a lot of interaction with other states in that part of our state, then they can do it. But trying to come to the legislature and saying, let's pass a bill in the middle of the night and raise taxes without a vote of the people, I'm not on that side of that question.
The Hancock Amendment does allow the legislature to raise taxes without a public vote up to a certain level.
Right.
Was that part of your calculation? If the
No.
legislature had passed a bill that was under that level, would you have been
No.
okay with it?
No.
Governor, how about
Yes, sir.
on the vehicle tax issue? Was that a difficult decision in terms of deciding whether to do so, or was this was planned out in your mind?
Well, I mean, I sent a clear signal during the session on that. I mean, I sent a very clear signal, you know, on the last week of the session, on Wednesday morning, after late night activity on Tuesday night, that I think folks could. Doesn't take a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. You know, I mean, you can see what I'm saying there. So this one has been one where I'm not saying I'm not sensitive to the various pressures that are out there and the concerns, but because of the various things that have been stated here and in other places around the state, I understood it was an important issue. That's why I took, which is a relatively rare step for me, during the legislative session, during the process, at a significantly time-constrained time of that process, by specifically writing and releasing a very specific statement, and then, you know, working with our team to make sure that had, you know, that people understand that. So in that sense, my sense is this action today doesn't surprise those that have watched that the entire thing.
Governor, speaking of difficult decisions,
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
that's what you get the big bucks for. The Affordable Care Act is obviously a very much a flashpoint in Missouri, and you're running for re-election. How concerned are you that you will be branded by vetoing the contraception bill as favoring the Affordable Care Act, and how did you deal with those concerns? How will you deal with those concerns when you're out there?
I mean, as I said before in my response, I mean, I don't see that connection here. The connection here is that Missouri believes, as I said before, in a strong religious exemption for folks that want to choose or not choose. And they also believe that exemption is in the hands of individuals and employers. Putting insurance companies in that priority position higher doesn't have anything to do with what they did in Washington. It's what they did here in Jeff City, and it's the wrong thing to do.
But are those exemptions still going to be adequate when the HHS mandate kicks in? Do you believe that the state's existing exemptions are still going to be adequate when the Field Health and Human Services requires the
I believe, as I said before, I believe very strongly in the exceptions. And I believe very strongly in the policies over almost the last decade that this state has had to respect those individual religious liberties. And I will use the full, I will support those and work to make sure that Missourians who have what I believe are correct religious liberties to make correct individual choices, and employers have those same, as well as religious institutions. I will work to make sure that those important liberty protections and religious protections are protected.
Would the Missouri law withstand the supremacy clause?
Oh man, I spent 16 years talking about stuff like that, guys. I go over to the Red